All right. Now we are pleased to have one of our sponsors, Revol Greens, and our partner, We Don't Have Time. Dr. Sweta is going to come up here, be talking with Mike and Tom, telling you a little bit about the work they're doing, creating an agricultural system, an agricultural process that is more resilient, more efficient, safer, local, all these things that we've been talking about all day. This is a place where we're going to bring them all together full circle. So I'm pleased to bring up on stage Sweta Chakraborty, Mike and Tom. Get up here and tell us about what y'all are doing.
Thank you, RNA. My fellow panelists, please join me on stage. Take a seat, get comfortable. How's everyone doing? We're at the final sessions of day 2 of Future Food at South by Southwest, at the South by Southwest Center. I repeat all of that. You obviously know. You obviously know where you are, but we have thousands of people tuning in from around the world. And I saw friendly faces in the audience. So thousands of people tuning in from around the world. Thank you for engaging with us. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you for taking this conversation to your day-to-day and to be inspired and to share good ideas, to scale some solutions. And I can't think of a better solution to be showcasing here at South by Southwest and through the We Don't Have Time platform than Revol Greens. And I have with me both the CRO and the CEO of Revol Greens. And this company is looking to provide solutions to consumers, grocers, and restaurants to provide access to fresh, delicious produce all year round. So let's start with, how do you do that? Who are you and how do you do that? Why is that the core and the mission to Revol Greens? Mike, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, with Revol Greens, our whole goal is to be able to feed people affordable, sustainable, healthy lettuce that doesn't have tons of food miles, it's got safe water, it doesn't have chemicals on it. So that is our goal, to do it coast to coast. And with that takes scale and a lot of hard work, and that's what we're doing right now.
And so you have a vested interest in being in Texas because of a recent launch that you have here, the Texas Greenhouse. So tell us a little bit about that, Tom.
Absolutely. So Texas will be our 4th greenhouse to date. We have a greenhouse in Minnesota, Georgia, and California, and this will be our biggest yet, the biggest greenhouse lettuce facility in the world, actually. So about 20 acres, which doesn't seem a lot if you're familiar with agriculture, but 20 acres of greenhouse production is equivalent to about 600 acres of field production because of the number of turns you get, the perfection of climate you're trying to create in that greenhouse, and really just speeding product through and speeding to the consumer as quick as possible from a freshness standpoint.
Okay, so you've got these locations. It's producing really high yield. That's incredible. Let's for those who might not have deep knowledge about this, including myself, I talk a lot about food and agriculture, but the kind of the granularity of it is still very interesting, even for those who engage with this topic and in this sector. So tell us, why is it? Let's just set the stage a little bit. Why is it that greenhouse growing is so beneficial over traditional growing?
Yeah, with greenhouse growing, we're able to control, if you look at the pictures back here, the entire environment. You can see how consistent it is. You don't have patches of brown or patches of disease. You don't have bugs. You don't have all those things that you have to deal with in an outdoor environment. We're able to really specifically manage it and really keep happy, healthy lettuce inside those greenhouses. And we can do it with great labor and, energy efficiency. Our facilities, most of the energy we use comes from the sun. And so that's really how we leverage nature as well to make sure we get the best product out.
And let me probe a little bit more. So what is it that, to Mike, what other efficiencies are coming from this greenhouse model in terms of water, energy, et cetera?
Yeah, when you look at the water side of it, we capture all the rainwater that lands on top of this roof here. And we'll see how we do here, but in Minnesota, we add zero water other than what we capture. And with that, we sterilize it, we clean it, we reuse it, and a container of our lettuce is about a pint of water compared to a container of outdoor lettuce is about 12 gallons. So massive, massive difference in water utilization and water savings and safety.
So let's get into a case study that not everybody might be familiar with. So give us a little context first for this. The 2022 lettuce shortages. We know that led to high inflation, and it's plagued popular restaurant and fast food chains. So how does this model actually mitigate against those kinds of challenges that inevitably would arise?
Yeah, maybe I'll start by just building on what Mike had said. It's by creating that perfect climate, you're creating a lot of consistency, a lot of predictability, and really supply assurance. Through that, then we can work with grocers, restaurant companies, and really plan with them, because we see very little yield fluctuation throughout the year. I mean, you see maybe 10% dips, depending on the time of the year. But it allows us to really plan with customers. To your point, there was a lot of disruption over the past, really several years, with a number of different recalls throughout the year. And it really creates havoc on the shelf and disrupts consumers across the board.
Yeah, nobody likes that. Everybody wants access to their fresh produce all year round, and here's a solution that does that sustainably and protects the planet. People expecting to be able to get their produce on demand means that we are importing these products from wherever they would naturally be grown. So here's an opportunity to actually reduce that carbon footprint of bringing the product to consumers.
Yeah, I think one of the key attributes of how we go to market is really trying to create access and scale. Across our entire model, we produce over 20 million pounds of lettuce per year. And to really make a change from a supply sustainability and climate standpoint, we've really got to achieve that scale and bring prices down, because we can't just be, on great grocers such as Whole Foods and Sprouts. We've got to make our products available to Walmart consumers, Costco consumers. We've got to be on burgers with Jack in the Box or Wendy's. And so how do we create that scale and really make a difference within the supply chain?
So what made you choose Austin? Because there's a need, in so many major cities and so many countries and continents. We were talking about what kind of the longer term strategy is. There's a need for this everywhere. And a lot of these restaurants you just listed are global. So can you imagine one of these locations locally across the country, across the world? Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, we're in the process of doing that right now. Texas is, opening here in about 6 weeks. We're already getting ready to expand our southeast facility, and we'll be putting pretty much a mirror image of what we have here in Temple, taking the efficiencies we've learned in design and build, and we're going to be building that. And then we're in the process now also in the northeast. And we're in the process as well as expanding our California facility. We're at 50 acres right now of total production, which is the largest in the U.S. And we see that doubling over the next few years at least.
I think one of the things that's important too, because there's other models in this space, and there's something to be said for being closer to the consumer. But as we pick our locations, as we develop our go-to-market strategy, how do we also fit in the food system as it exists today? Because the reality is there's a lot of efficiencies in that. There's a lot of waste along every step of the supply chain as well. But how do we work with our customers to plan our greenhouses around the current distribution chain? And the reality of that is you have distribution centers in Temple, you have them in Bakersfield, you have them across the country in spots that are really the distribution hubs. And how do we then connect into those distribution hubs and get it on the shelves as quickly as possible?
So you're already touching upon the topic I wanted to get to next, which is really how does this help sustainability? Bigger picture, obviously, making fresh produce available has incredible nutritional benefits, and there's many implications for human health. But of course, we are talking about the bigger picture, which is the environment and a sustainable future of agriculture that we all care about here, that we're all operating in. How do we touched upon it. We're talking about water savings and energy savings, but there's so many components to those savings. Of course, the efficiency of the greenhouse itself, the reduced amount of time to move goods from the greenhouse to the actual end consumer. Talk to us a little bit about just like all of those benefits. Tell that story.
I mean, everything we do, everything we think of, every way we do it, we try to think of sustainability. And it goes from water, as we talked about, as it talks about, just being able to reduce chemicals and food miles. Your typical product comes from Mexico, comes from California, Arizona, that's got over 2,000 road miles on it by the time it gets to your plate. Our goal is to be less than 300 miles. So we've got those sides of it, and we also look at it as sustainability also in farming and agriculture goes to the people that are growing and farming it. These folks, a lot of times in outdoor environments, are being driven across the country from one growing region to another growing region. How do you live a family? How do you grow and develop the roots you need to develop and be sustainable? And versus where we are, we really train, we use high-tech greenhouses, so people are being educated, being trained, and having a livable lifestyle with a living wage that we're able to do. And every aspect we do, and we're not perfect. There's still areas in energy that we're looking at and evaluating to try to get better and more improved. We use sunlight as much as we can, but we do use artificial light, and we're still in the process of improving it. And it's core to who we are, core to everything we do. There's not one aspect of the business we don't take sustainability being really a big focus.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to that, it's still a very new, growing, evolving industry, right? You have 40,000 acres of greenhouse in Holland today. You have about 4,000 to 5,000 acres in North America, with 1,500 of those being in the U.S. Very few of those are in lettuce today. I don't think most consumers know that most of your tomatoes come from greenhouse today, and that was a 30-year evolution. So we're on the very early stages of this in terms of innovation within this space. Our yield alone at Revol Greens has doubled in the matter of 3 to 4 years, and we know we can get parity with field production. And how do we continue to push that even further so we can increase access of fresh food?
Yeah, that's awesome. And so this is very innovative in itself, but you also recognize the need for additional technology to take this even further. So what is the role? How are you also partnering with AI, for example? How are you taking advantage of the advancements there to make your greenhouses as efficient as possible, and eventually to make the distribution potentially as equitable as possible?
Yeah, AI and the development of that is one of the big things we've really been working on. It's been one of the focuses since I joined Revol to be able to do, and we're advancing hugely in that, and we're seeing great improvements. Every plant we're going in and we're photographing it as it's coming through. It's being scanned, it's being utilized to make sure it's healthy, it's where it needs to be. We're gathering climate data to figure out exactly what the right amount of energy to put into the plant. We're also now looking out forward in weather, so we're looking at further weather trends to figure out how much light we need to put in today. If it's going to be snowing and we're growing, it's 30 below in Minnesota and we're growing this lettuce, how much energy can we manage looking at forward forecasts? We're bringing in a lot of predictability. We're looking at quality. We're bringing it in for sustainability. And it also allows for us to be efficient. As Tom comes with what his sales projections are, we can then look at the greenhouse and we can actually move up and down our production to match exactly what that is to, again, reduce food waste and be more efficient and sustainable.
I was actually hoping AI could take my job leading sales.
We're trying. We're almost there.
How do I get into Whole Foods?
That was funny.
It's a common thing. It's a common thing.
Maybe once a day. I got a funny thing. But maybe to add on to that too, a lot of the varieties we grow, we grow a mix of head lettuces, baby leaf lettuces. We grow some herbs. But a lot of those varieties have been cultivated for an outdoor environment over years. And that cultivation really focused from a breeding perspective on the outdoors, pest pressures, drought, just really being resistant and yield. So a lot of the breeders today are thinking through just what is that future from a breeding standpoint? What does the consumer want? Is it a more frilly lettuce? Is it a crunchier lettuce? Should we think about nutrition and think about how do we get more vitamin K or whatever that might be? And that's, I think, really the exciting space or part of this space is just when you're growing in a controlled environment, you can focus on the attributes of the plant that can be really meaningful for the consumer.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. So this all sounds great. What are some of the challenges you're facing?
The challenges are that a greenhouse is, they don't build them for free. They are expensive, big assets that you have to do, and a big part of our job is being able to show the sustainability of these. And one of the key things that we've been able to do over the last couple of years, which has been a challenge in greenhouse and vertical farms, is show site-level profitability. And so we've really been focusing on that side of it because we have to be sustainable for us to provide sustainable solutions. And people have got to remember that. So that's the cycle we've been going through. And we're really ahead of the curve on a lot of other folks being able to do that, which has now given us the energy to build bigger facilities, to supply bigger markets, and be able to continue the advancements that we're doing. So that's a big part of it.
I think the other side to that too is just the consumer. We all like a lot of our options. We like, a produce department that has 14 feet, 18 feet of salads that are dominated by big brands and have on average 100 to 150 SKUs per salad set. Obviously, I'm a believer in what we do. We do a great job, but we can tackle a portion of that today. So how do we get the consumer to be educated and understand that the product can be better for you, but also better for the planet? And some of it gets lost today in a sea of options on the shelf. Where we see quicker adoption in the space really is more with institutional buyers, whether that be food service companies or whether that be club chains, because you have more limited assortment. For them, it's more about supply assurance. They're going to carry one spring mix, and if we can meet their price point, you can be on the shelf. Same with burger chains, right? For them, it's about limiting disruption as much as possible within the supply chain and beating their shrink numbers. But we've got the complexity within grocery of really just educating what we do for the consumer.
Are you seeing those buyers understand what it is you're offering here? Are you seeing support as the trajectory going in your favor?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's just how do we, I think our food system in the United States is very efficient today in some ways from a transportation standpoint. You've got the bulk of produce today that comes from California. I think part of our solution has to be, if we disrupt that, how do we not create more inefficiencies along the way? And that's the challenge we have to solve for.
So we have many interested parties in this room, in this space. We have thousands tuning in from around the world. You were saying how part of this is education awareness. So these types of engagements are really critical to that. What is it that you want the audience to take away? What is the kind of lesson learned that you would like to share? What is the idea you would like to share? Could what you're doing be picked up by others in their respective communities and perhaps implemented? What would you like the action takeaway to be?
I mean, the takeaway is and this group is very knowledgeable already from a lot of the conversations we've had around as we've been giving out samples and talking through things. It's a very educated group, and it is getting the word out. As Tom talked about, when you hear people say CEA, Controlled Environmental Ag, or greenhouse, or they don't understand what that really means. And then you throw organic, conventional, CEA, all these words, it's very challenging. And what it really comes down to is people talking about it and finding the lettuce they like and understanding the value of it and understanding that in controlled environment has a lot of advantages that we've been going through. And it's word of mouth. What we see, and it's been incredible, this business has been around for 5 years, started in Minnesota with some really great entrepreneurs who were exiting tomatoes as it was scaling to start lettuce. And they started going door to door to the different grocers saying, hey, carry our product. And 5 years in, thanks to Tom and his team and others, but to the consumer's understanding, we still see same-store growth going up by double digits every year for the last 5 years. So we're seeing our space on those shelves take up more and more space. So we're seeing that it's a slow word of mouth. It's a slow process. It's about providing that good product, keeping a good product point, and it was bad when we had some of the challenges over Thanksgiving where I know some of you went out and didn't see any lettuce on the shelves. We got pictures from our customers of our shelves. Everything was bare. They were loading our stuff in, and we were shipping it out. We were the only one that was there that wasn't involved in a recall or a quality issue. And so it takes time, and we're dedicated to take that time, and we know it can work. And so, that's how we see it. It's every year 5% more, 7% more, 10% more.
Amazing. Same sort of takeaway, call to action?
Same, absolutely. I know in the last panel they talked about food and climate and how they go hand in hand, and it's absolutely true, right? I think folks, consumers are creatures of habit. Again, they look for organic, they look for non-GMO, they look for regenerative ag, they look for, the things that we know. And, getting to know who the farmer is, getting to know the process is very important, and just understanding and who we are. And I think that's one of the advantages we have is producing closer to the consumer. We can tell a more detailed story, a more intimate story with our consumers. So.
That's incredible. Well, okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for what you are doing, for this incredible innovation, for bringing greenhouses to communities, improving not just the quality of the food, access to nutritious, healthy food, but also improving the environmental impact of producing food. And that is something that could not be valued, and it hasn't been valued enough. And we need to actually see the value in that as we think through the role that food and agriculture and innovations in food and agriculture are going to play in the big picture of overcoming the climate crisis. So any final thoughts?
The one thing I think that is important we didn't talk about, but is nutrition. We've talked about a lot of the sustainability side, but I think nutrition is also key. And the thing that you look at is our products is usually delivered to a grocer within 24 hours. And you look at outdoor, it could be 5-6 days. And at that point in time it's getting delivered, it's already lost half its nutritional value. So it is also not just about feeding people and doing it affordably, but it's giving them better nutrition. And I think that's one thing that we continue to work on and strive for. That is a big difference, and it's hard to quantify that.
And just final thought on my side is I do think that grocers listen to consumers. I mean, I think engaging produce managers and their nutritionists that they often have on staff and learning more about products and how we grow and what we do, grocers will respond to that. So get engaged and learn more about the growing methods out there.
Meet your local farmers.
That's
Meet your
right.
local greenhousers.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your expertise and everything that you're doing. Thank you for taking the time to share. Let's give them a round of applause, everybody.